Hello, and welcome to Ralph Reads, brought to you by TURN, the United Ronin Networks. My name is Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4, the legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal, Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. On today's edition of Ralph Reads, I continue with the second third, or the fourth installment of Be More Careful by the revered Shannon Holmes. Let's big up that be and be more careful to my beloved Barbara Antonia Figueroa. En paz descanse, querida madre. Why don't we dig deep till we're complete? Let the reading commence. Chapter 13. Downtown at Lexington Market, Black mingled in with the crowd of office workers and students who were stopping through to shop and get a bite to eat on their lunch hour. While he was eating a fast food meal of chicken wings and french fries, his eyes wandered about till he suddenly spotted an old teammate. Ty was fresh out the joint, and Black hadn't seen him in years. Though Ty had heard plenty about Black terrorizing the streets while he was in prison, he never thought in a million years Black will alter his future. "Yo, Ty!" Black yelled out to him. Ty looked around as if he were lost. He heard someone calling him, but was unable to determine the direction the voice traveled from. "Yo, Ty, up here!" Black yelled again as he leaned over the railing. Ty looked up and squinted his eyes. "Who that?" he questioned unknowingly. "Nigga, bring your ass up here and see," Black replied. Curiously, Ty walked up a flight of steps to find out just who this stranger was. A million faces flashed through his mind until he got upstairs and Black came into full view. "Oh shit, my nigga!" Ty shouted as he got close enough to see him. They hugged each other and both remembered how tight they were when they played ball together. That was years ago. Black was the hot shot point guard while Ty had the deadly jump shot. As they broke their embrace, Black stepped back to get a good look at Ty. He still looked the same, except he had packed some muscle on his tall, wiry frame. "What up?" asked Black, giving him a pound. "Long time no see. Where the fuck you been, yo? I ain't seen your ass since y'all moved out to Woodlawn, yo." "I know. My mother did that dumb shit. She said I was getting in too much trouble in East Baltimore, but I found trouble out there too." Black nodded his head understandingly. "What type of shit you into now? You hustling, yo?" "I've been bitten lately, yo. Matter of fact, I just came home about a week ago. I'm trying to do my thing, you know what I mean?" he added. "I heard that," said Black. "Wasn't you up in Hagerstown on the farm?" asked Ty. "Uh-huh," responded Black. Quietly, Black thought of his own fascination with jail. It was a survival thing. He felt that anybody who could survive that and come home unbroken, still down to do dirt, was a soldier. "Your name is ringing bells up there, yo," Ty said, informing him. It seemed like every time a new inmate came upstate on the Bluebird prison bus, new stories about Black's exploits or extravagance in the streets of East Bmore came up with them. Unimpressed, Black simply ignored the comment. It only affirmed what he already knew. He was that nigga. Duh. Bow down in the presence of a true boss player. "They still slinging that knife up there, yo?" asked Black. "You better know it. They check the guns in at the door, not the knives. I kept me a big Rambo knife. You never know when one of them wild-ass coons gonna get out of line, said Ty for sure. Yeah, I'm hip. The east side and west side still beefing up there, yo? Nah, yo, it ain't happening like it used to. It's more of a B-More versus DC thing. We up there going to war with them niggas. Black was done feeling him out. He cut straight to the chase. Yo, you getting money or what? The reason why he asked was from the looks of his gear. Ty wasn't doing too well. He was wearing an old linty blue Russell sweatsuit that looked like he purchased it before he went to jail. Black already knew the deal. He sympathized with all the brothers coming home into society with nothing. Often, he hit them off with some dough so they could buy some new clothes. Still, he wanted to know Ty's mindset before he extended a helping hand to him. I'm fucked up in the game right now, yo. I'm trying to flip this little half ounce of Ready Rot that my little cousin hit me off with a couple of days ago. My block is kind of dead right now. It ain't pumping like it used to. I'm trying to build up my clientele, but it's slow money. Slow money is better than no money, though, he added. As he spoke, Black looked him directly in his eyes, trying to detect any signs of insincerity. He saw none. Ty was keeping it real. Inside him was the same hunger and determination that made Black so successful. Black knew the look, and he knew what it was like to be fucked up. It was the worst feeling in the world, next to death, that any so-called hustler could have. After listening to him talk, Black decided to put him on. You want to get money with me, yo? There's always room on my team for a good man, said Black. Do I? Nigga? What the fuck kind of question is that? Hell yeah! Okay, starting tomorrow, you're gonna get money with me. No more nickel and dime shit. This is major. I'm making you my lieutenant. You ain't got to be on the front lines. You just got to direct traffic. I got faith in you, yo. Don't let me down, because this is a one-shot deal, said Black as he scribbled down his cellular phone number and beeper number. Yo, I'll never let you down. I promise you, Black. I'm ready for whatever, insisted Ty, taking the piece of paper from Black and stuffing it into his pants pockets. Unbeknownst to Ty, he had just jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. The very next day, Ty called Black bright and early. Black came over and picked him up in a new convertible black Jaguar and took him shopping for some new clothes. Ty needed a new wardrobe, bad. If he was going to play the part of Black's lieutenant, it was mandatory that he dress the part. All Black's workers had a reputation that they had to live up to. Dressing nice and being well-groomed was a part of it. He took Ty downtown to Gage's and splurged on him. Black bought him gator boots, shoes, dress slacks, silk shirts, and sweaters. They spent half the day shopping in downtown Baltimore and Georgetown and Washington, D.C. When they were finished, Ty had tons of new clothes, from hustling gear to club wear. Never in his wildest dreams did he ever expect to be blessed like this. He would have been happy with a couple of pairs of jeans, a few multicolored hoodies, and a pair of Timbs. With all the clothes he had in the trunk, he was straight now. Just when Ty thought the party was over, Black had something else in store for him. Last but not least, as they left D.C., Black jumped on the interstate. Instead of heading north to Baltimore, he drove south on I-95. Ty didn't even realize it till he saw the big sign that read, "Welcome to Virginia." Black, just as Nard had in the past, took Ty to the same crooked car dealer Black got his first car from. Ty drove off the lot in a red Chevy Blazer. He was sitting on top of the world. Having never played the game on this level, Ty had to be groomed into his position in order to play his part. Like a baby learning how to walk, Black held Ty's hand as he learned the ropes. He had to be shown how to run a stash house and how to manage the workers and runners. Everything from handling money to bagging up dope had to be shown the proper way, Black's way. For 2 months, they were inseparable. They did everything together except re-up. Never under any circumstances did Black ever let his workers meet his connect. It was a matter of security and longevity. His connect told him point blank, "I don't want to meet no fucking body. You come alone." Besides, if any of his workers or lieutenants knew whom or where he copped from, then he would eventually become expendable. They could go directly to the source instead of getting it from him, the middleman. Black liked to treat his workers like kids in this sense. He always wanted to keep them dependent on him for everything. No Black, no dope, no dough. Chapter 14. Over the phone, Nard and his sister Pam were engrossed in a deep conversation. She was hurling one accusation after another about his girlfriend Michelle. Supposedly, she was cheating on him, or at least that was Pam's word. Nard was already stressed over his case. He certainly didn't need to hear anything like this, even though this was something his sister felt had to be heard. She didn't want to see her brother invest any more of his time and money on bitch-ass Michelle. Nor was she about to sit back and watch her brother get played by some hoe. Nard didn't quite see it that way, though. He knew that the two never cared for one another. They were both jealous of each other's position. He was always caught in a tug-of-war between them. Nard felt that the information was over-exaggerated until Pam told him who she was cheating with.
They fucking, Nard. Nard, I'm telling you, they fucking. I saw Black's car parked outside her crib just last night. And the night before that, too. I know she taking care of business for you, but ain't that much business in the damn world. And he's spending the night all up in your spot. I already done stepped to her simple ass, and she caught a fake-ass attitude with me like I'm wrong. Nard, you know I'm about to drop that bitch. I swear we was about to fight,
said Pam, waiting for Nard to say sick her, and she would be out the door. Though this was his sister, Nard didn't want to believe what he was hearing. Not my man. Why she have to say Black? That shit can't be true. Black would never cross me, not after all I've done for him. Nard was seriously trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. You sure about this, yo? Did you actually see him coming out the house? I mean, Michelle could have just switched up cars with him or something, he said, trying to comfort his aching heart.
What? Switching up cars, my ass? Nard, I'll die for you before I lie to you. As sure as there is a God in heaven, they fucking. Ain't no two ways about this shit. They fucking. Don't no female be driving no nigga's car unless they have a family. Or they fucking. You know that shit, Nard. Don't act like jail done made you confused, nigga,
she firmly replied. Since she put it that way, Nard had no choice but to face the truth. He was being played. He suddenly became furious at the thought of the two people he held close to his heart, stabbing him in the back. Now everything was starting to add up, and this explained why Michelle's visits and letters had suddenly slacked up. Go ahead. Ask her ignorant ass.
The bitch will probably tell on herself as arrogant as she is. You can get it out of her. Just question her long enough,
said his sister. That's exactly what he did as soon as their conversation ended. He wanted to get the story straight from the horse's mouth. The phone rang for the 6th time before sleepy Michelle answered it. She groggily picked up the receiver and spoke into the handset before looking at the caller ID. Hearing the recorded message, she realized it was a collect call and it could only be Nard. She cursed herself for not unplugging the phone last night. She was too tired to be bothered with him this morning. "Bitch, who is you fucking?" he asked, like he got that shit personally from X. The harshness in his voice and the directness of the question took her by surprise. She knew he wasn't the one to bite his tongue. Now that he had asked the question, she intended to give him the answer, honestly. Michelle had been dying to tell him for some time now. She was looking for a reason to say something, and now she had it.
"Nigga, it is too early in the morning for this bullshit,"
she answered angrily.
"Can't you call me back later when you actually got something to say?"
"Bitch, don't fucking play with me. I made you, whore. I know all about the little affair you think you're having."
"Whatever, nigga. You don't know nothing. Who's filling your head up with that bullshit? Your fat-ass sister? That bitch need to mind her own business and worry about why she's a size 24. If she wasn't so fat, she would have had a life and wouldn't be all in my business,"
she exploded. "Don't worry about what size she is. Just be a woman about the situation and tell me the truth, yo," he said.
"Nigga, if you really want to know, it's black eye."
Instantly, Nard got quiet. So his sister was right. The 411 was true. Michelle was playing a dangerous game, one that involved two dangerous men. When men are pitted against one another in a confrontation involving a woman, emotions can come into play, and the outcome can sometimes prove to be fatal for somebody. Michelle had just put herself out there on Front Street, riding with Black. She came in the game with a thoroughbred, Nard, and she planned to stay on top with one, Black. For a few seconds, Nard was speechless. He was shocked by her audacity. He knew that people on the outside had a tendency to get brave when a man was in jail and appeared to be down, especially facing the kind of time Nard was facing. He had no one to blame but himself. He created this monster. He left her out there with two bad habits, a dope habit and a sex habit. Sooner or later, somebody would come along and supply her with both. It just so happens that the person was his man. Of all the motherfuckers in B-More you could have fucked, Joe, you had to fuck my man. I don't believe you went against the grain. You must be fucking crazy. Bitch, you know what? Both you whores is dead.
"Ain't nobody scared of you, punk motherfucker."
The phone went dead. Nard was in city jail, seething. Before he realized the words that came out of his mouth, he realized he had issued a death threat to both of them. Now he had to follow through with it or be considered a lame, someone who tossed around empty threats. He stood by the phone contemplating his next move. Nard wanted Black dead. Friend or no friend, he had to go. But who could do the job, he thought to himself. Suddenly, someone came to mind. He dialed the number of the Bullock brothers, Ace and Rodney. They were two grimy hitmen he grew up with from the Perkins Projects in East Baltimore who owed him a favor for bailing them out and helping them on their feet. They were more than willing to settle the score for Nard. He put up $30,000 as an added incentive. Placing the handset back in the receiver, Michelle thought it was a joke. She laughed at Nard.
"That nigga ain't gonna do shit." That was just an idle threat,
she reasoned. As the day wore on, it began to sink in that this was no laughing matter.
Maybe I overplayed my hand,
she thought. Her sharp tongue and foul actions had gotten her ass in a world of trouble. She had ignited a feud and set off a deadly chain of events that regrettably had to happen now. Her big mouth not only placed her in danger, but Black too. He was under the gun and didn't even know it. How was she gonna tell him this? Something funny is going on, thought Black, looking at the phone. His connect still hadn't called back yet. This was unlike him. He was about business like Black, and he knew when Black paged him, it was about making money. Any other time, the boy would have called back by now, but 2 days had gone by with no response. Black jumped up and decided to go to city jail to pay Nard a visit. It had been a long time since Black had actually seen Nard face to face, 18 months to be exact. Arriving at the jail, Black parked his car on Madison Street and walked a few yards to the entrance. At the visitor's desk, he passed his driver's license to the correctional officer and watched as he scanned the visitor's list for his name. Looking up and down Nard's visiting list, the CO was unable to locate his name.
Sorry, my man. Your name is not on Bernard Smith's visiting list,
the CO said, handing him back his ID. What the fuck you mean, man? My name ain't on the list? You better check that shit again, yo, Black demanded.
That won't do you any good. You ain't on there,
the CO insisted, trying to be polite, ready to call for backup. Feeling stupid, Black snatched his license and headed out the door. Now he knew something was very wrong. Nard had always said his name would be on the visiting list so he could always come up to talk business since they couldn't talk over the phone. As he sat in his car and thought about the weird turn of events that was happening lately, the entire situation rubbed him the wrong way. First, his connect was missing in action. Now, Nard had him off the visitors list? Before he pulled off, Black went into the ashtray and got 2 bags of dope. He snorted both of them, one up each nostril, before heading to Michelle's. Something wasn't right, and he had a gut feeling she had the something to do with it. Black arrived at his destination amped up from the mood he was in from the heroin. He was feeling meaner than a pit bull being fed gunpowder. He let himself in and walked down the hallway, finding Michelle watching television in the living room.
That you, Black?
She yelled over her shoulder as he entered the room. Who the fuck else would it be? He sarcastically asked before flopping down on the couch across from her. You heard from Nard lately, yo? He asked as he pulled out a $100 bill filled with dope and began to sniff. His question caught her off guard. She wasn't thinking about Nard. She was fiending for a blast.
I hollered at him the other day.
Did he say anything about me? He asked between snorts.
Nah. Why?
She asked, her eyes transfixed on the dope he was holding. 'Cause I went down to see him today, and they wouldn't let me in. Them fucking bastards said my name wasn't on the visitors list. All of a sudden, my name ain't on the list. I can't get in contact with his peoples. I can't re-up. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but something ain't right, said Black, blowing out the air in his chest cavity as he took another deep breath. He paused long enough to let his last sentence hang in the air. He then passed her the heroin-filled $100 bill. Of course, she accepted it and greedily inhaled large amounts of dope like a vacuum. Immediately, she started to feel good as the narcotic began to take effect. Heroin was better than any truth serum. It gave a person the courage to speak things out their mouth they would have otherwise never stated.
I got something to tell you, Black. Promise you won't get mad.
She nervously said. Listen, Shell. I ain't got time to be playing no motherfucking games, yo. I got some serious shit on my mind. Got something to say, spit that shit out.
Nard knows about me and you. He said he's gonna kill us.
She said like it was the weather and just a little rain in the forecast. Then she took another sniff. Black's mind went blank. He couldn't believe what the fuck she just said. His whole attitude changed from bad to worse. If looks could kill, the bitch would be dead. Nard said what? He asked again, wanting to make sure he heard her right. Michelle repeated herself, only telling the half of it. What she neglected to tell him was she was the source of the information. Black wouldn't leave well enough alone, though. Shit wasn't adding up, so he pressed her for more information. How the fuck Nard find out about me and you? Who told him? He demanded to know, waiting to hear who so he could fuck them up.
How am I supposed to know? Probably his nosy-ass sister.
She said, irked, as if his line of questioning was bothering her. Still telling only half the truth, she just looked back at him, then rolled her eyes as if the conversation was irrelevant. Who the fuck do you think you talking to like that, yo? Ho? I will kill you in this motherfucker, said Black angrily, beginning to check her back into reality. If you don't know, you better act like you fucking do. Chumped? Michelle toned down her voice.
I guess I don't know then,
she responded, still challenging him. Black was through being nice. He got up, casually walked over to her, and smacked the living daylights out of her. The force of his blow sent snot, dope, and blood flying out of her nose as she dropped the rolled-up bill and fell off the sofa, hand on the floor. Ho, you better stop playing games with me and start playing your position, yo. You done started something you can't even fucking finish, he said, scolding her, towering over her, ready to strike her again. She curled up in a ball on the floor, protecting her head and face. Sobbing uncontrollably, Michelle's face was stinging and her heart was pounding. She was scared. She began to wonder, were all the rumors she heard about him true?
Is he really a cold-blooded murderer?
She thought.
What is he gonna do to me? I'm sorry,
she mumbled between cries. Not as sorry as you're gonna be, Black furiously replied. For all the money, for all the power, for all the fame Black had enjoyed up till now, this was a very low point in the game for him. Nard must be tripping. He wants to go to war over some no-good broad. Wasn't it him who always said, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense? Thought Black to himself as he looked at Michelle's fetal position body on the floor. He still couldn't believe the shit was going down like this. Beefing over a broad was the extras, and because of her silly ass, he now had major issues. Nard held the advantage, even in jail. He still had money, and he still had power. Black couldn't afford to underestimate Nard and expect to live. The boy had too much paper to go to war against, and Black was sorry he had gone against the grain. It was too late now, though, and at that moment, he didn't know what in the world to do about it. Chapter 15. As Black leaned against the countertop in the kitchen of one of the stash houses he operated, his right hand massaged his chin as he pondered what his uncle was saying in the echoes of the background. Nothing had gone right for him since the falling out with Nard. His main concern was getting a dope connection, and that's why he had called his Uncle Briscoe. Here they were in the kitchen, having a meeting, his uncle trying to convince him to make a move with him. "That's some faggot-ass shit your man did, yo. Getting you cut off from your connect over some stink, bitch. Wasn't you taking care of that chump? What's wrong with these niggas today? They sure don't make them like they used to. Nowadays, niggas got the game fucked up. Fuck that coon, man. One monkey don't stop no show. I got peoples in New York. My man Carlos is up in Spanish Harlem. I need a beer with him in the feds. Yo, that nigga is large. He got that raw China white. So let me run up there with a couple of G's and I'ma holler at him." Uncle Briscoe was a fast-talking con man and ex-bank robber. He was short, stocky, and dark-skinned. He was Fat's baby brother, whom he kept in contact with since his father's funeral. Uncle Briscoe had done time in Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary and supposedly had plenty of connections. "When was the last time you caught from him, yo?" asked Black. Truth was, he was only asking Uncle Briscoe because that was his only hope. He was trapped between a rock and a hard place, and all his uncle had to do was tell him what he wanted to know. "I just caught from him about 2 weeks ago. He looked out for me. The more money I spend, the less he charges me for weight," he said, lying through his teeth. "My man Los got the bomb, yo. I'm telling you. Remember that dope that was killing junkies on the west side a couple of months ago? That was the shit. That shit is taking at least a 30 or better." "You mean to tell me I could step on it that many times?" Black asked excitedly, knowing damn right well dope taking that much cut was unheard of. "I'm trying to tell you, yo, you ain't gotta worry about nothing. I got this. I got 2 broads that'll carry the money up and the product back. When we get back, you can take care of us," said Briscoe, trying to endorse his imaginary connect and his imaginary plan. What the hell? I ain't got shit to lose, thought Black. Alright, I hope you know what the fuck you doing, yo. My $35,000 means a lot to me. So I hope the dope is some real good shit. You straight with 35, right? Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna take care of it for you. With that, you should be able to cop no less than 3 ounces, yo. Anything you get over that is yours. Just bring me mine, all of it. If your people's dope raw like you say it is, then we'll do some more business. Then you'll really get paid, yo. Black left the kitchen, went in the bedroom, and returned carrying a large bag filled with $35,000 wrapped in individual rubber bands. Uncle Briscoe opened the paper bag and damn near began to slobber on himself. He hadn't seen that much money in years. Now all he had to do was make good on his promise. Go to New York, find a connect, cop, and make it back home. You need me to take that trip with you to the city, yo? Black asked as he watched his uncle rummage through the money. Nah, yo, I got this. Everything's under control. So on the strength of his uncle's word and the prospect of coming up on some raw dope, Black parted ways with his paper. That was chump change to him. He had plenty more stashed away. He figured he'd let his uncle go ahead and handle things his way this time. However, next time he planned on meeting his uncle's connect face to face. Off to the city Briscoe went, alone and in search of a sweet deal on some weight. He figured in New York he'd easily find a dope connection. After all, New York was one of the main drug distribution centers on the East Coast. As soon as he got off the Greyhound bus at the Port Authority, Briscoe hailed down a cab. His destination, Spanish Harlem. That was where he made two mistakes that will ultimately cost him dearly. First, he went to cop alone with nobody to watch his back. Second, he was flashing his cash to the wrong people. On 116th Street, a couple of Hispanics were able to lure him into an empty shooting gallery in a tenement building by giving him a free quarter-ounce of heroin. This was just enough to appeal to Briscoe's greed. The deal was too good to refuse. As soon as they got him into the building, they flipped the script and killed him. He suffered multiple stab wounds to the back, head, and neck. His body was found a few days later by the building's superintendent. Back down in Bmore, Black caught a bad vibe about his uncle. He hadn't heard from him since he left for New York. He specifically told him to call as soon as he got there. Black kicked himself for not going along with him. He should have played his first vibe and went with him. His worst fears were confirmed when the New York City Police Department notified the family of his uncle's murder. Black was really stressed out now. The amount of money was a small thing to a hustler of his caliber, so that wasn't what bothered him. It was the fact that he had no dope. With no possibilities on any horizon, he was desperate, and desperate times called for desperate measures. So Black went on a rampage, a robbery spree with no picks about who he robbed. If you had it, he was coming to get it. This was a life-or-death situation to him. It wasn't a game, or at least he wasn't playing one. Selling drugs was more than his livelihood. It was his life. He had to maintain his lifestyle by any means necessary. He robbed to replenish his own heroin stash. One group of hustlers in particular who felt his wrath was New Yorkers. He mainly targeted any brothers from New York down in Baltimore trying to get their hustle on. It was his own personal attempt to seek revenge for his uncle's death. He formed a deep-seated hatred for all New Yorkers by robbing, shooting, and killing as many of them as he could. He extracted a measure of his revenge at the same time. His entire mindset was money and murder. His rationale was they didn't belong down there anyway, so he was personally going to run them out of there. One by one, he was gonna send them home in a body bag. Slowly, Black pulled his Toyota 4Runner into the McDonald's on North Avenue. Ordering some lunch at the drive-thru, he never noticed the stolen golden Maxima creeping up on him. "Black?" said a voice in a friendly tone. Slipping, he turned towards the direction of the familiar-sounding voice without even thinking. Immediately, he knew he had made a serious mistake. Two angry black faces stared at him. Unable to place them, he ducked for cover. He laid flat and covered his head with his arms. Simultaneously, the two hitmen began unloading their weapons. The automatic gunfire made the drive-thru seem like the 4th of July. Bright muzzle flashes could be seen, and non-stop thunderous gunfire could be heard. Black was defenseless the way he laid in the truck ducked down for safety. Not to mention, the cars in front and in back of him in the drive-thru line had him boxed in. He was a sitting duck. His truck was riddled and rocked by bullets. He didn't know what type of guns they were firing, but from the sheer volume of bullets that hit the truck, it had to be Uzis or MAC-10s. Bits of metal and glass rained down on Black as he lay motionless. His adrenaline was pumping, but he didn't panic. Slowly, he eased out his .40 caliber from his waistband. If he was gonna die, he was gonna take somebody with him. As the last bullet was fired and the shooting stopped, Black heard the sounds of clips hitting the ground as the hitmen pulled out more clips to load their weapons. Instinctively, Black sprang from his hiding spot, blazing his gun. Boom! 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 The gun roared, putting the hitmen on the defense. They panicked, realizing that the shootout was no longer one-sided. The driver put the pedal to the metal and they fled the parking lot. Tires squealed as they sped off. Black continued firing at the car until he lost sight of it. Horrified, the patrons and innocent bystanders began reversing and shifting their cars into drive in an effort to distance themselves from Black and the madness. This allowed him to flee the scene of the crime as well. Miraculously, Black survived this attempt on his life, suffering only a graze wound to his upper right arm. The angle from which they shot, combined with the height of his truck, saved his life. Had they approached his truck on foot, he would have been a dead man. Safe in his house, Black was getting so high he could kiss the sky. It was beginning to distort his thought process. He was paranoid and was busy reevaluating everything and everybody around him. Under the circumstances, business was good. Ty was running the show like clockwork. He proved to be a valuable addition to his team. His family was safe. Nobody knew where they lived. Yet, there he was, one of the richest hustlers in all of B-More, wilding out and robbing people. One would think he was a broke-ass hoodlum. The chinks in his armor were starting to show. Dope was his only weakness. This was even clear to him. There were two things that really bugged him, namely Michelle and Nard. The predicament he was in could be directly attributed to the both of them, as they were the source of his problems. Michelle turned Nard against him, and Nard got him cut off from his connect. It never dawned on him that he was his own worst enemy. As he contemplated his next move, his cell phone rang unexpectedly, interrupting his thoughts. It was Michelle.
Black?
She asked. Yeah? What's up, yo? He asked back.
Hey, boo. I'm sorry about what happened between us the other day. It was all my fault. I was wrong. You was right. I should have stayed in my place.
Black kept silent while she copped the plea. He knew what was coming next. She was about to crack for some dope. He could see right through her weak-ass game. This shit wasn't about him, and it wasn't about Nard. It was about her. All about her.
I miss you, Black. When you coming over?
I'll be over later, he calmly replied.
When?
She asked. Later, he snapped.
Black, could you bring me a little of that thing when you come?
She meekly asked. What the fuck? I tell you about talking on the motherfucking phone. Damn. What, you trying to get me killed and indicted too? He asked sarcastically.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
She pleaded. Bitch, you was always sorry, yo, he snapped, ready to hang up on her simple ass.
Thank you, boo. I swear I'll take care of you when you get here. I promise.
Black hung up the phone. He wasn't trying to hear that shit. It was time to kill two birds with one stone. On the way over to Michelle's crib, he thought about what he had to do. In his mind, he came to the same conclusion every time. Michelle had to go. There was no way around it. She served no purpose anymore. She was just a leech. Sure, the sex was sweet, but fuck that. A nigga had lost too much already. All she was doing was pulling him down. She was the one who turned him on to snorting dope, and more important, she was the reason he almost got killed today. Michelle was no good. Wasn't no woman in the world worth dying for except his mother. Arriving in Michelle's Towson neighborhood, Black parked his dark blue hoopty several blocks away from her townhouse and walked to her complex, taking the back blocks. When he reached her complex, he climbed over the 8-foot wooden fence, made his way to her door, and let himself in. He was greeted by the sound of running water. She was taking a shower. I caught her ass off guard. Good, he thought to himself as he crept silently into the living room and sat on the sofa, looking like the Grim Reaper, dressed in all black with his hoodie pulled way over his head. Shortly, she exited the bathroom naked and walked down the hall and past the living room area. From his vantage point, Black could see Michelle's silky triangle of pubic hair as she made her way to the kitchen to grab a snack. On her way back to her bedroom, she stumbled across Black sitting in the dark living room.
Oh my God!
She yelped, getting her breath as her heart dropped to the floor.
Black? You scared the shit out of me. How long you been there, yo?
I just got here, yo, he replied, taking a snort.
This motherfucker tripping for real. Why did I even ask him to come over? Maybe it's time I stop fucking with him. This nigga's bad news. How the hell I'm gonna get my house keys back from him?
She questioned herself as she looked at Black. He was giving her the creeps. Here, yo, he said, tossing her a bundle of dope. She caught the bundle, then she clicked on the lights. Tearing open the glassine bag, she dumped the dope on the mirrored coffee table. Her attention was solely on the pile in front of her. Greedily, she temporarily forgot about Black sitting across from her. Finding a matchbook by an ashtray on the table, she ripped it in half and began to use it to snort the dope. Slowly, the pile began to disappear. Black sat back digging Michelle while she did her thing. Junkie bitch, Black thought to himself. What a waste of some really good pussy. But this sentimental thought didn't stop him from doing what he had come to do. He had to kill her. She was dead weight who suddenly got too heavy for him to carry. Quietly, he rose from his seat and walked up behind her. He began to fondle her breasts while she hogged the dope.
Hold up, Black. Let me sniff a little more and I'll take care of you,
she told him, pushing him backwards. He stopped feeling on her as if he were honoring her request. Michelle went right back to snorting. From his back pocket, Black pulled out a small .22 revolver. As Michelle was leaning over the coffee table, he placed the gun to the back of her head right behind her left ear at point-blank range. He looked down at her as she continued sniffing the dope off the table. So preoccupied, she never saw it coming as Black pulled the trigger, killing her execution style. In a fraction of a second, Michelle was dead. Her limp and lifeless body crumpled to the floor. Black stood over her and shook his head in disgust. How did I let myself get into all this shit with your dumbass? Talking to himself and mumbling along, he proceeded to ransack the apartment to make it look like a burglary gone wrong. Before he exited the apartment, he left the bedroom window wide open just to make it look good. Now for part 2 of his plan. In the cover of darkness, Black drove past Nard's mother's house in Randallstown. He knew someone was home because the lights were on, and from the street he could see silhouettes moving about inside. Circling the house again, he cut off his headlights and slowed the car down to a snail's pace. Then, like the quiet before the storm, he emptied his .45 automatic drive-by style into the windows of the house. This was a message to Nard to call off his dogs in retaliation for the attempt on his life. I may not be able to reach you, but I can reach your family, nigga, he thought to himself as he turned the corner, slowing his car down as if nothing just happened. The next day, Nard got the message loud and clear when his people came to visit him over at City Jail. They were nervous and jittery as they told him every detail of what happened. The thing with Black had gotten out of control. Black was out of control. Nard hadn't counted on him being so ruthless. Black put shit in the game by bringing the beef to his mother's door. Nard had 2 choices. Either he could raise the price on his head and pray they succeed in killing him the next time, or he could cancel the contract. He was unwilling to jeopardize his loved ones' lives any further. His hands were tied. Black had won, and Nard stepped down. Still in need of dope, though, Black decided to make a power move to New York City himself. As much as he hated New York and New Yorkers, he still knew that the city held the best opportunity for him to cop some weight. He snatched up Ty, 2 chicks, Lisa and Stacy, a dope fiend named Lala, and a small arsenal of guns. He was ready to ride. He had no intention of making the same mistakes his Uncle Briscoe had. The move was well thought out, as Black was extremely cautious. They drove to the city in 2 separate rental cars. Black, Lisa, and the money in 1 car. Ty, Stacy, Lala, and the guns in the other. Everybody was formally dressed in suits to avoid being stopped and searched by an overzealous state trooper, especially on the New Jersey Turnpike. But instead of driving directly to New York, they detoured into Fort Lee, New Jersey, where Stacy and Lisa rented 2 different hotel rooms. One room would be for Black, Ty, the money, and the guns. The other room was for replacing their suits with street gear in order to blend into the environment they'd be in. Then Black grabbed $10,000 in cash, 2 handguns, and Lala, and went cruising the streets of Harlem. Across the George Washington Bridge, they drove into Washington Heights. After a thorough search for heroin, they soon discovered that this area was populated and controlled by Dominicans who strictly sold cocaine. They moved on down Broadway, crossing 125th Street till they got to the east side. Then they traveled a few more blocks till they entered Spanish Harlem. There, they checked out all the known dope spots that they heard of or could find. Going spot to spot, block to block, project to project, they left no stone unturned. The first few days of doing this proved to be futile. As hard as they looked, they didn't come across any good quality dope. Lala tested everything they gave her, and not once did she give them her personal stamp of approval. It was either just aight or turnpike dope. By the time Black tried to step on it, the cut would have eaten up all the dope and turned less of a profit. Black was patient, though. He hadn't come all this way to go back home empty-handed. He was willing to search every dope spot and shooting gallery in New York City for the rawest heroin, something that would catch a few bodies. He questioned every nodding junkie that he saw. He demanded to know where they got their dope from. On the 5th day of his mission, Black's persistence paid off. A dope fiend directed him to some dope that was killing people up in the Bronx called Murder One. That's exactly what I'm looking for. That right there. He went and copped a bundle. Then they drove back to the hotel to let Lala test it. Inside the room, Black and Ty watched closely as Lala cleaned the works and cooked up the dope. She looked like a mad scientist about to make a startling discovery. When she was finished, she desperately searched her arm for a vein.
Damn, I can't find a good place to hit. Can one of y'all hit me in the neck?
She asked, looking up at their faces, which were twisted like, "Why?"
It's either there or my pussy,
she said, letting them know the shit got worse. "Give me that hype, bitch. I'll put this motherfucker up your ass if I got to," said Black, not playing. Lala knew that crazy motherfucker was serious.
I'm just bullshitting. My neck is a good spot, but don't stab me, Black. You got to be gentle. Just prick the skin, okay?
She said, wishing Ty was doing it instead of Black's crazy ass. She drew up 50 cc, then handed Black the dope-filled syringe. Black pulled her shirt collar away from her neck and looked for a suitable portion of skin amongst her track marks. Finding what she was looking for, he deftly injected the hypodermic needle into her jugular vein. The dope entered her bloodstream and raced for her heart. Her eyes quickly rolled up in the back of her head and her chin dropped to her chest. The drug had taken effect. She blacked out, falling face first to the floor. "Damn, this some good shit," said Black, gently nudging Lala with his right foot, looking at the hypodermic needle still in his hand. "Damn," said Ty, sounding like Chris Tucker, getting closer for a look at her. "You think she high?" he asked, checking her wrist for a pulse. Murder One was the shit. It was too strong for even an experienced junkie like Lala. She couldn't handle it. Murder One was the truth. Black knew right then and there he had some powerful stuff. Feverishly, he and Ty worked on Lala, trying to bring her to. They dumped a bucket of ice down her pants and underwear, and Black slapped her repeatedly. "Give her mouth to mouth," demanded Black, looking at Ty. "Hell no! You give her mouth to mouth," said Ty, right back, having no idea where Lala's lips had been. "Damn, Murder One done murdered Lala," said Black, then adding, "They damn sure named it right, I know that much," he said, continuing to smack Lala around until she came to. The three of them went back to the Bronx to find the runner who sold them the bundle. The runner wasn't hard to find. He was on the same corner where they left him earlier. "Hey yo, my man, can I holler at you for a minute?" he asked. The guy looked at Black and remembered him from earlier. He clutched his side, checking on Nina, and proceeded toward Black. "Yo, son, you want some more of that thing?" he asked. "Yeah, that shit almost lived up to its name. Shorty, check this out. I'm trying to cop some of that on the weight tip. I want that exact same shit," said Black. "Yo, what you working with? Couple of grams or a quarter?" the runner asked, as if it could be handled. "Nah, more than that. But I ain't really trying to put my business out there like that, Cho. I'd rather discuss that with your boss. I'll break you off something for plugging me in, yo." Black went into his pocket and pulled out a knot of money. He peeled off $500 and handed it to him. The runner could hardly believe his luck. "Good looking, son. Yo, you're about your business. Word up. Wait right here. I'ma go get my man, he said as he ran around the corner. You go do that so I can get the fuck out of this motherfucker and go back home, thought Black to himself. He couldn't stand no New York City. The people, the traffic, the streets, the tall-ass buildings, all that shit got on his nerves. You couldn't tell them niggas up there shit neither. They walked around like they owned the world. Black was peeping it all. They just didn't know Black would kill them without a moment's hesitation, though. Thinking about his Uncle Briscoe, he felt his gun by his waist. He wasn't worried about getting robbed. He was strapped. Ty was strapped, and the arsenal was back at the hotel if anybody wanted to go to war. They were taking a risk standing there on this Bronx street out in the open, though, and Black knew that. What he didn't know was if the runner was actually gonna go get his boss or some stick-up kids. In the game, Black had gambled with his life on several occasions. This was just another one of them. The runner returned minutes later, strolling with an old-timer. Black wasn't surprised. He knew that some of the richest and largest cats in the game were old-timers. "What up, yo?" said Black, extending his hand first to shake the older man's.
What's up, young blood? I'm Sonny. My man was telling me you trying to get some weight,
he said, trying to feel Black out. "I am. If it's the same thing y'all was selling in them bundles."
It is. How much you copping? A quarter or a half ounce?
Black suddenly became aware that he was conducting his business in front of two workers, Ty and the runner. "Can I speak to you for a minute in private, yo? My business ain't everybody's business," he said. Slowly, they walked down the block talking business. Black convinced Sonny he was about money simply by the way he conversed about drugs and the life. Sonny could tell he was from out of town by his accent and by his frequent use of the word yo at the end of his sentences, which was getting on his nerves. They quickly struck a deal. Sonny agreed to sell him an ounce of dope for $9,500. He also gave him a verbal money-back guarantee. He could return it if his customers weren't satisfied. Sonny was always eager to establish ties outside of the city. He knew from prior experience that out-of-towners spent that paper. Knowing this, he always played fair with them. Black, on the other hand, didn't trust Sonny. He was leery of all New Yorkers after his uncle, and just because Sonny seemed nice didn't mean diddly. Black merely suppressed his ill feelings in order to get what he wanted, raw dope. He wasn't about to let his personal feelings get in the way of him making some money. But if Sonny ever tried to do anything underhanded like shortchange him on some weight, then and only then would he be killed. As long as he was supplying Black with that raw shit, he could live. As a precautionary measure, Black only bought 2 ounces at a time. Back and forth, him and Ty crossed the GWB to cop till they purchased all of the dope they came for. After copping for weeks, a couple of ounces here and a couple of ounces there, Black's mission was complete. He sent Ty and Stacy back home on the Amtrak train with the product and the guns, while him, Lisa, and Lala rode back home clean. Back in B-More, the drama had died down, mainly because Black calmed down. Now that he had a legitimate connection, he didn't have to rob and terrorize the streets. Instead, he laid low and let Ty run the show. From the outside looking in, it appeared that Ty was happy. After all, he had it all. A small fleet of luxury cars, a ton of jewelry, and flocks of pretty women. But it wasn't enough. He had aspirations of being his own boss and pumping his own dope. It seemed like Black wanted to keep him under his wing forever. Being as though Black wasn't giving up any more profits or sharing equally as Ty wished he would, Ty seriously began saving his money. He had already stashed away a decent amount. Soon he'd go solo, already preparing for his own future. He knew who Black's Connect was and where Black copped from. What did he need him for? His answer, nothing. But how could he tell Black? Chapter 16. At the low-budget Marylander Hotel on Pulaski Highway, Ty and Mimi were picking up where they left off at in the club. All the flirtatious conversations and lustful stares had led them to kissing, touching, moaning, and groaning. The sex was erotically sensational and merely a combination of lust and all the liquor they consumed at the club. Mimi purred as Ty stroked her ferociously. "Who's daddy, bitch?" he asked, driving his manhood deeper and deeper inside her.
You are,
she whispered in his ear, biting down on her bottom lip.
Don't stop, keep it right there,
she said, ready to come all over him. Ty was in a sexual trance, using long, powerful strokes to pound her out.
Harder, ooh, Ty,
she said, digging her nails into his back. It felt so good he couldn't hold back. Increasing his pace, he wanted to come with her. "Come for daddy, baby," he said, exploding like a broken dam inside her. Mimi continued to claw his back till she drew blood. This was a wild experience for Ty. He was taken to the extreme, pleasure and pain simultaneously, and he loved it. Drained and weak, he collapsed on top of her. His mouth found hers, and their tongues intertwined in a wet, passionate kiss.
Ty, I got to pee,
she said, pushing him off of her, still huffing and puffing. He rolled up and watched her shapely ass cheeks sway from side to side as she hurried to the bathroom. Damn, she looked good. Too bad she a hoe, Ty thought to himself. In his book, any female who gave it up that fast was a whore, a slut, a freak, or whatever you wanted to call it. He just met her tonight, and within a few hours he was running up in her. As a matter of fact, on the way over to the hotel, he had her performing oral sex on him as he drove.
I don't usually do this, but I really like you. You're special,
she said, kicking game, but Ty knew better. She's done it before, and she'll do it again. What makes me so special? What separates me from the rest of these niggas she did that shit to on the first night? She couldn't fool him because, unlike Black, he played the clubs every weekend. He knew all about the pussy pound. What Mimi didn't know was that he'd done business before with her girlfriend, Fila. And since birds of a feather flocked together, he knew Netta was down too. Ty made a mental note to warn Black about both of these broads. They were nothing but high-priced gold diggers in his book. Ty laid on sex-stained sheets listening to Mimi use the bathroom. His mind was a million miles away. He knew that he'd blown a golden opportunity to tell Black he wanted out while they were driving to the party. Then the drinks, the party atmosphere, and later the women made him lose focus. He just couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't have the heart to, not tonight. It was Black's birthday, and Ty didn't want Black to find out he had copped from his connect behind his back. Let him enjoy his night out. It's his birthday. I'll tell him later. That's how Ty had rationalized with himself earlier. But he was kidding himself if he thought Black would take the news of his betrayal lying down. Black wasn't much on talk, but he was big on action, violence, gunplay, and murder. That was Black.
Ty, you getting in the shower with me, yo?
Mimi yelled from the bathroom. I'm coming, yo, he said, snapping out of it. He was ready for round 2, some wet and wild fun. He got up and walked toward the sound of the running water, butt naked except for the tons of platinum jewelry that still adorned his neck, wrist, and fingers. Entering the shower, he wondered whether his Rolex was waterproof. He never worn it in the shower before. It would want to be, he thought, thinking of how much it cost. Across town, Netta was playing her part real well. Over breakfast at IHOP, she and Black were involved in a meaningful conversation, huddled close together in a small booth. Completely ignoring the other patrons, they were doing the exact opposite of Mimi and Ty at this very moment. Netta wasn't about to make the same mistake as Mimi had, giving it up too soon. By far, Black was the biggest fish she'd ever managed to catch, bar none. Yes, he was bigger than Major, and Major was a major figure before the motorcycle accident. Netta had to be careful. She wanted to protect the good girl image of herself. She wanted to play him for everything she could.
So, after Major died, my mother passed away a few months later. I was so depressed for a while, I haven't had a man since,
said Netta, recalling some of the major events in her life while deleting the rest. That's fucked up, yo, said Black, showing his sympathetic side. I'm sorry to hear about that. My mother is my heart. I don't know what I'd do if anything ever happened to her, yo.
I know what you mean. I don't wish death on nobody, but death is a part of life. We're all born to die. Besides, Black, I've been catching hell all my life. I grew up in the projects. I never knew my father, and my mother was a dope fiend. So death can't be much worse or painful than what I already been through.
Black sat back and pondered what she said. He was immediately blown away by her openness and honesty. He could identify with her struggle. They clicked like tap dancing shoes. Poverty was their common bond. Money was their common goal. Can you tell me something, yo? Why you ain't got no man? As good as you look, you should have a man, yo, said Black. He always was suspicious of beautiful women who were single. In his mind, something had to be wrong with them. They were either dykes, a pain in the ass, or fatal attraction types. He didn't want to be bothered with neither.
Like I told you, I've been stressing. I ain't been trying to holler at nobody. Maybe I ain't met Mr. Right yet. You might be him for all I know with your sexy chocolate self,
she said, as sweet could get. Black smirked. He remembered a time when he was ashamed to be dark-skinned. When he was growing up, he was called all kinds of mean names like Tar Baby and Black Bastard. He was called out his name so much it stuck in his subconscious. That was why he stopped going by his given name Deshaun and adopted his moniker, Black.
Since we playing 50 questions, let me ask you one. Are you that somebody for me?
She asked. They both smiled. That night was the beginning of a long courtship. Soon, Black and Netta became inseparable. They spent quality time together every day, dining out, shopping, and going to the movies. They enjoyed each other's company, and Black became infatuated with her. He treated Netta like a queen. He had every intention of making her his wife. He showered her with exquisite gifts, fur coats, jewelry, and everything his money could buy. Black had zero experience in the love department, and this was why he expressed his love in the form of material possessions. He didn't know that he couldn't buy love. For the first time in his young life, Black had fallen in love with somebody or something other than the game. Sexually, he desired Netta more than any female he'd ever known. Thoughts of Netta ran rampant through his mind. How would it be? How would it feel? Was it wet enough? Was it hot enough? Of course it was, thought Black as he watched her one day walking around her house in nothing but her panties and a bra. She would prance around him, teasing him with her luscious body. Black just knew it was about to go down. This has got to be it. I'm finally gonna hit it, he thought to himself. But instead, she put on her pajamas and asked him to hold her while they cuddled on the couch and watched a movie. Amazingly, Black respected her wishes without trying to force himself on her. For months, Netta kept up the same routine while engaging in a whirlwind romance that included trips to Aruba and the Bahamas. Black was so tired of taking pictures. Don't we have enough memories? We have so many memories captured by Kodak, we never need to take another photo again in life. Finally, after returning home from Mexico, Netta broke down and gave him some. He had truly earned it over the past 3 months. In Netta's mind, having sex with her was a privilege, and she treated it like such. For Black, the sex was instant gratification. Netta was everything he ever dreamed of and more. Their love-making was intense and passionate, only magnifying the feelings he already had for her. It was too bad for Black, though, as Netta was only pretending and only in it for the money. Unlike Netta and Black, Mimi and Ty's relationship was non-existent. They were strictly sex partners, nothing more. Ty fucked Mimi a few times and gave her a couple of hundred, then dumped her. Despite Mimi's constant pursuit of Ty, he didn't take her personal. She was trying to get in good with him by doing anything and everything for him sexually, but it wasn't working. Her beeps and her calls went unanswered. Even though it wasn't working with Ty, Mimi and Netta still kicked it. From time to time, Mimi would drop by Netta's house and visit. She would privately put her down with the happenings of the Pussy Pound and keep her informed of the 411. Who was fucking who, and who came up on what, and what nigga had copped that, and for who. However, most of the time when she stopped by, Black was home, and Netta's attention couldn't be focused on her. Netta would be too busy catering to Black, and the both of them would be acting all lovey-dovey. This display of affection made Mimi want to vomit. She was jealous of her girlfriend's relationship. Never mind that Netta might be happy. Mimi was stuck on her petty, childish claim.
I saw him first, and if Netta hadn't pushed me out of the way, he'd be my man.
Mimi's love and friendship for Netta was strictly conditional. It was always, if. If you're constantly with me, or if you're giving me your undivided attention. She definitely didn't like the fact that Netta had a man in her life, nor did she like the fact that they couldn't spend as much time together like they used to. She was jealous, and her jealousy caused her to play childish games behind Netta's back. Whenever Netta wasn't around, Mimi would openly hit on Black. Either she was spreading her legs far apart invitingly or licking her lips at him seductively. Mimi let him know that she wanted him and he could get it. But Black wanted no part of another scandalous love triangle. He learned this lesson fucking with Nard and Michelle. He knew how fast a female could bring a man down. He passed on Mimi's advances. And because of the very fact he had learned his lesson, Mimi's secret was safe with him. He didn't tell Netta about her girlfriend. Instead, he filed Mimi's actions away in his memory bank for a rainy day. Sinking deeper into her good girl role, Netta no longer had time for the Pussy Pound. Her world revolved around Black on a full-time basis. Seeking to impress him, she invited Black and his family over to her house one Sunday for dinner. She cooked a traditional soul food meal, including collard greens, sweet potatoes, rice and black-eyed peas, fried chicken, and cornbread. The food was hot and delicious. Everyone enjoyed her cooking and her hospitality, except Black's little brother Stink.
Oh, Netta, you sure can burn, child. I got to get you to cook dinner in my house one day, baby,
said Black's mother as she finished off her second helping.
Thank you, Miss Harris,
Netta said.
I'll come over anytime you want me to. Would you like some more?
She asked, being especially kind.
Oh, no, I couldn't eat another bite, child,
said Cynthia. Netta spooned some more on Black's plate and looked at Stink, not bothering to ask.
Let me give you a hand cleaning up,
offered Cynthia.
I'm okay. I can handle it by myself, Miss Harris. You relax,
Netta insisted.
It's the least I can do after you cook this big meal.
As Netta busied herself clearing the table, her and Black's eyes met, and he winked his approval. She smiled and took the remaining dishes to the kitchen, leaving Stink and Black alone. Stink looked disgusted as Netta exited the dining room. I don't like that bitch, yo. She a snake. I'm telling you, yo, I could feel it, said Stink as Black sat there expressionless. Why does he have to go there? Black asked himself, shaking his head in disbelief. Stink was the only person in the world who could get away with talking to him like that, and Stink knew it. He was still a juvenile, but he had a foul mouth on him like a drunken sailor. From the door, Stink had it out for Netta. He just didn't like her. It seemed like she had everybody else under her spell, but not him. He saw right through her act. She wasn't a good girl. She was a scandalous, fraudulent-natured hoe. Very outspoken, Stink let his ill feelings for Netta be known whether Black wanted to hear it or not. Netta knew she had her work cut out for herself when dealing with Stink. She exercised a lot of patience when talking to him. She withstood all his disrespectful comments, and by choosing her words lightly and keeping away from him as much as possible, she continued to hold Black. Having already won over her greatest opposition, Black's heart, his mother, Netta felt she could get around Stink. It would just take some time. The streets, the clubs, and chasing hustlers began to consume all of Mimi's time. Now she rarely had some time for her own son because she was hardly ever home. With Netta locked down in her relationship with Black, Mimi had nobody to kick it with. Feeling abandoned, she thought she had lost Netta forever. Mimi never learned to live with a loss. She simply substituted one person for another because she couldn't stand being alone. Depressed, since no member of the Pussy Pound measured up to Netta, she found a new friend. This friend always made her happy and would never leave her side. Her new friend was dope. She started off getting high on the sneak tip, merely experimenting with a small stash she had taken from a hustler she spent the night with. Mimi meant to steal the dope and hand it over to some young hustlers around her way to sell for a couple of dollars. A funny thing happened along the way, though. She tried it, and she liked it, and the package never made it to them. This was the beginning of a cursed union. Chapter 17. Black was having an anxiety attack. The butterflies were doing backflips in his stomach. He was sitting in Netta's kitchen waiting for her to return from the hairdresser. Black was about to do something he never imagined himself doing. In his possession was a 7-carat diamond ring that cost him his arm and his leg. You only live once, what the hell, he thought. He wanted to do his thing right. Black was going to ask Netta to marry him. He loved her so much he couldn't imagine life without her. Black had even sought the advice of his mother, who gave him her blessing. He also consulted his little brother Stink.
Man, don't marry that hoe, yo. You gotta be one sorry motherfucker if you do.
As usual, he tried to sabotage their relationship any way he could think of. Black disregarded Stink's comments. He was going through with it regardless. Stink would just have to deal with it. Now, all there was left to do was pop the question to Netta. When she finally arrived home, Black greeted her at the door.
Hi, boo,
She said as she entered the house, hugged him, and went on by him about her way. Hey, you eat yet? He asked.
Yeah, I had a little something. You? 'Cause I can whip up a little something real fast if you're hungry.
She said. Black shook his head no, with his eyes downcast as he looked away.
What's the matter with you, Daddy? Why you acting funny?
She asked as she stopped what she was doing to pay him some special attention. Nothing, he said, as his eyes averted hers. It was all an act. While you were gone, something came in the mail for you. It's in the kitchen, he said, as if it was something really not right about the picture. Netta, wondering what he could be talking about, rushed off into the kitchen. She noticed a long white box with a large bright ribbon attached. From the looks of things, it was a box of roses. Inside the box, laying on the top of a dozen long-stem roses, was a card. Picking it up, she quietly read the inscription. I love you, and I hope the next time we get together, it will be for the rest of our lives. The rest of the card was blank, no signature. Netta's mind was racing.
The next time we get together? The next time?
She thought, trying to put it together as a guilty conscience overwhelmed her. She thought her past had finally caught up to her. Then reason began to overcome her doubt. She knew she had never brought any guys to her house except Black. This had to be some prank perpetrated by some unknown character.
I don't know who the fuck is playing games, but this shit is going right in the trash, yo.
She said, gathering the box of roses and proceeded to act on her statement. She wanted to get rid of it before Black inspected it. I wouldn't do that if I were you, yo. Look inside the box. There's something in it you might like, he assured her. At that moment, Netta knew it wasn't a gift from a former sex partner or some jealous-ass broad. She realized Black had something to do with it. Her heart stopped racing and she calmed down. Sitting down at the kitchen table, she carefully examined the contents of the box, removing all the roses and fallen petals till she came across a small gray velvet box. Her eyes grew large with anticipation. She opened the box and almost fainted. The VVS E in color 7-carat marquee cut diamond caught her off guard. She screamed more out of greed than joy.
Is this mine?
She asked. Who else could it be for? Black asked, then walked over to her, taking the ring from her fingers and bending down on one knee. He grabbed her hand and romantically asked, Will you marry me? It was a scene straight out of a movie. This was how every woman dreamt of receiving a marriage proposal. Teary-eyed, Netta responded,
Yes, I will.
Black's mother was the wedding planner. All three had decided it was to be a summer wedding. Cynthia was excited about having a daughter-in-law and was happy that it was Netta. They were doing something that she and Black's father never got around to doing. Little did she know, Netta never had any intentions of marrying Black because she was already married to something else, the game. The only reason she agreed to marry him was so she could squeeze all that she could out of him before cutting him off. Netta wanted to see just how far Black would go for her. She was about to find out that his love had no limit. Meanwhile, Mimi seemed to be doing good by all appearances. Physically, she still looked fine as ever. But after a few short weeks of sniffing dope, she had a habit. Dope was like a miracle drug. She could use it to ease her pain. The empty feelings of rejection throughout her life and in the streets had led her down the wrong path. The pussy pound found her distant, short-tempered, and moody. They began to shy away from her and vice versa. Eventually, everybody lost track of Mimi except the streets. They had her for sure. She spent all her time with hustlers from all over the city. Whoever was willing to get her high or get high with her was who she was kicking it with. Mimi developed an insatiable appetite for dope. Too much was never enough. While under the influence, she turned into a nymphomaniac, and the word spread quickly amongst hustlers about her dope and sexual practices, and hustlers were lining up to take advantage of her. Dudes she normally wouldn't have given the time of day to now got her high and run trains on her. Passing Mimi around from friend to friend was like a plate of food they could eat from. She was even videotaped, unknowingly, however, willingly participating in a threesome involving another female and a male. The streets were talking, and they were saying that Mimi was a dope whore. The videotape only proved it. "What?" Black yelled into his cell phone. He was talking to Sonny from New York City.
I just took care of Ty. You ready so soon?
Asked Sonny. In his mind, Black wondered how many other times had Sonny took care of Ty and not mentioned it.
Yeah, your man Ty was just up here a couple of days ago. I took care of him. I thought it was a little light from what you usually cop, but I took care of him.
No sooner than the words left his mouth, Sonny knew he had made a terrible mistake. It was too late. The cat was out of the bag.
Y'all still working together, right?
Asked Sonny, puzzled, trying to clear up any confusion. Working together? That bitch-ass nigga works for me. Black didn't say what he was thinking. He was too busy trying to maintain his composure. Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of days, yo. I'll put what I want in your beeper. So have that shit ready for me, yo, Black said, ending the call. It was customary for him to call Sonny and let him know how much weight he wanted ahead of time to ensure that he could get as much as he needed at once. Black didn't like having to make a bunch of trips on the turnpike. New Jersey was ridiculous. Past that, he still hated New York and wasn't trying to have to make but one trip, not two and not three. Sonny would have him out there like that at times. Hanging up the phone, Black realized that something unexpected had come out of his brief conversation with Sonny. Ty's underhandedness. How long this nigga been stabbing me in the back, he thought, thinking all kinds of craziness. Hello? What's this shit I hear, yo? You been to New York and was copping from Sonny? Bitch-ass nigga? What you think, I wouldn't find out? Huh? Thought you was slick, didn't you? How long you been pumping your dope out of my spots, yo? Nah, yo, I wouldn't do no shit like that. Listen, Black, I was gonna tell you, yo, but you know, it's hard to catch up with you, my nigga, Ty said weakly, trying to explain. Nigga, it ain't that hard to catch me, motherfucker. I ain't trying to hear that shit, nigga. You crossed me. So this is the thanks I get for putting your bum ass on, right? Black, it ain't like that, yo. You getting all the money. I need more money than I'm seeing. You need more money? Nigga, you was going hand to hand selling nickel vials of coke on the corner wearing bootleg shit, remember? Remember who the fuck rescued you, yo? You ain't never had it this good, yo. Remember when your peoples was getting evicted? Who the fuck took care of that? Who, motherfucker? Black demanded to know. Me, Ty. Me. That's the fuck who, nigga. You work for me or nobody, motherfucker. Black growled. Scared to death, Ty had never seen him or heard him this mad before. Not since his uncle Briscoe got killed, and never once was Black's rage directed toward him. See, what I'm saying, yo, it was too late. Ty had no more chances to speak any more words. Black hung up the phone, leaving a dial tone ringing in his ear. He had no more rap for Ty. Black was gonna let his guns do the talking. On the other end of the line, Ty was afraid and confused. He decided to go ahead with his plans of going solo, especially after that conversation. He realized it would be in his better interest to lay low for a little while, at least until Black calmed down. Just as Black was trying to fade away from the game, and just as he was beginning to look forward to the future, marrying Netta, having kids, going legit, this situation with Ty had to pop up. Never one to walk away from a challenge, Black had to meet this thing head on and let the chips fall wherever they may. It was an unseasonably cold, rainy spring morning as Black was making his way across town to pay for Netta's wedding gown. There, out of nowhere, he saw Ty's white Mercedes-Benz station wagon double parked in front of the Yellow Bowl, a local greasy spoon on Greenmount Avenue. Out early, getting ready to open up his new shop, and hungry as hell, Ty stopped to grab a bite to eat. Although he was wearing a bulletproof vest, he'd forgotten his gun in the car. Parking a half block away, Black walked swiftly back up the street to the restaurant. He was hoping Ty would be at the counter with his back to the door. He was hoping he'd catch him sleeping. This was war, and there was no playing fair. Wearing black army fatigues, Black entered the restaurant with his hand jammed in his army coat. Head down, he peeped from underneath the bill of his hat to see what Ty was doing. Ty had his back turned to him, and Black could see he was paying for his food. If not for the horrified look that spread across the cashier's face, Ty would have never noticed him. Black was creeping up behind him, gun in hand. As Ty turned around, he looked at the sinister figure coming at him. They stared at each other for what seemed to be an eternity, but was only a split second. There were like two gunslingers from the Wild West who were about to draw. This was do or die. Ty flinched first, reaching for a gun that wasn't there, realizing he'd left it in the car. Black already had his 12-gauge sawed-off shotgun with a pistol grip pulled out. The restaurant erupted with gunfire. The first shot slammed Ty up against the wall, hitting him in his chest as his vest absorbed the blow. Why is this nigga still standing? And why ain't he bleeding? Then Black realized he was wearing a bulletproof vest. From then on, it was curtains as Black aimed for his face. His next shot killed Ty on impact. That wasn't enough, though. He kept firing, nearly decapitating Ty. A restaurant employee was in the back calling 911. The old black woman gave the police an accurate description of Black. As soon as he finished emptying his gun, he turned around, flew out of the door, and hit the streets.
Freeze, motherfucker! Drop your weapon and get on the motherfucking ground!
A cop yelled at Black as he took cover behind his patrol car. Black thought about his options. Trying them wasn't one of them. He was out of ammunition. He didn't want to go out in a hail of bullets, becoming another young black male slain by the Baltimore Police Department. This wasn't the blaze and glory he wanted to die in. Black was forced to surrender.
Drop the gun slow, motherfucker! Drop the gun slow!
Another cop ordered as he took a deadly aim at Black's head. This was his last warning. He'd get no more. They were preparing to gun him down. Black willingly complied, tossing aside his weapon. He slowly dropped to the pavement, laying face down and spread eagle as dozens of armed police officers cautiously approached him. He was arrested without any further incident. The news of Ty's death and Black's arrest spread throughout the streets like wildfire. Netta got the news from Black's mother via phone. Later, Black called her himself from the station.
Hey, baby, you all right?
She asked, sounding concerned. Yeah, I'm cool. I guess you heard by now what happened. I can't really talk, so don't ask me nothing crazy. Just listen. Black paused to collect his thoughts. He knew he was in trouble. Now he needed Netta to come through for him. I need you to go to the block and see Stizan for me. You know who I'm talking about. Tell him to give you everything he got for me. Everything. Of course, Netta knew who Black was talking about. Stan. She made it her business to know all his business. She knew all his lieutenants personally. This information would serve her well now that Black wanted her to collect all his money off the street. He wanted this done immediately before anybody got any funny ideas. He would have gotten his family to handle this, but as a rule, he never involved his peoples in the game.
Okay, I'll take care of it. What you want me to do with it when I get it?
She asked. Take half to my mother, and the other half I want you to use as a retainer for a good lawyer, Black replied.
What about me? Who's gonna take care of me now that you're gone?
Greed began to consume her. She began making other plans for that money. Netta. You listening? Black asked, snapping Netta out of her scheme.
I'm listening, boo.
But her mind was on that money. Netta, I want to know, is you gonna ride this thing with me or what? 'Cause if you ain't, now is the time to let me know. I don't want to be thinking one thing when it's something else, yo. Anybody can be with me during the good times, but it takes somebody special to hang in there when the chips are down, yo, Black vehemently said.
Boo, I'm here for you,
Netta stated in complete contradiction to what she was feeling and thinking.
No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. You don't have to worry about nothing on this end.
That's what I hope you say, yo. I'm gonna beat this case. Watch, Black boldly predicted. It was a relief for him to know that Netta had his back and loved him enough to wait for him. Maybe we can still get married over city jail, thought Black to himself. Netta, I gotta go. The police is sweating me to get off this phone. I'll call you after I see the judge and get over to city jail. Don't forget to take care of that for me, he said before hanging up. Netta clicked her phone to make sure the line was clear. Then she dialed Central Booking, posing as a bail bondsman.
Hello, Central Booking.
It was the deep, husky voice of the desk sergeant on the other line.
Hello, this is Erica Shaw from Slick Rick Bails Bonds. I would like to know the criminal charges against my client, Deshaun Williams, and also his bail.
Hold on for a minute, miss,
the desk sergeant said as he punched Black's name into the computer.
Ma'am, you have a very bad man on your hands. His charges are murder in the first degree, reckless endangerment, unlawful possession of a firearm, and discharging the firearm within city limits. How does that grab you? I can go on forever, but I don't have all day, and by the way, there's no bail for murder one defendants anymore in the state of Maryland. You people should know that, so Billy the Kid will have to wait for his day in court.
Thank you, sir,
said Netta. This meant the money was hers, all of it. All she had to do was collect it, which wasn't a problem. Unlike most cases, when a hustler goes to jail and the other parties on the street refuse to pay, this situation was not Black's. Stan and the rest of Black's lieutenants gave up every last dime owed. The fear factor weighed heavily in their minds. They didn't know for sure if Black would be found guilty. Either way, they certainly weren't trying to feel the wrath of Black should he ever come home. On the other hand, Netta was naive when it came to the legal system. She thought Black was history. She just knew he'd be tried, convicted, and sentenced to forever.
Black ain't never getting out,
She convinced herself, acting on the ignorant feeling. She went ahead with her scheme, beating Black out of a little over $250,000. Then she placed a block on her phone so she couldn't receive collect calls. Believing Black wouldn't be home no time soon, she went jewelry shopping with a portion of his money, stashing the rest. In Baltimore City jail annex, Black went ballistic when he found out Netta robbed him. The money was a small thing. He had plenty of paper. It was the principal. He couldn't believe she had the heart to steal from him. Didn't Netta know he was a stone-cold killer? Didn't she know what he'd do to her? Black was heartbroken. Slowly it began to sink in that the only woman besides his mother he ever loved didn't love him. This was a cold realization arousing a hatred in him like he'd never known. He never felt hate for a person like he felt hate for Netta. Black swore he'd get her back one day. In jail or out of jail, he'd get her back. Folks, I hate to note this is where I pause for the cause just because I need you folks to tune in to the next edition of Ralph Reads. I would like, or rather love, to thank you, queens and kings, fellow royalty, for stopping by. You may connect with me via Facebook. Send a friend request to Ralph Anthony Garcia on Twitter and Instagram at RGMC2407. Send an email to rgmc2407@gmail.com, where if you'd like to leave a small donation, please use the Zelle app or PayPal.me/RGMC2407 or Cash App. My cash tag is RGMC2407. You may also connect with me on my other channel, the music channel, RGMC, Ralph Garcia, Master of Ceremonies, and right here on TURN. Tell a friend to tune in to the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. Fellow royalty, pick up a good book, read a good story, and set your good self free. I appreciate you, and I love you like cooked food. I will see you folks on the next edition of this Shannon Holmes miniseries on Ralph Reads. You don't stop. You don't quit. Ralph Reads is the legit ultimate.